Hello and welcome to another episode of Into the Afroverse with your host, William Jones. And Into the Afroverse is where we're taking Black people into the future. One of the things that I really like about doing this show is it's really given me the opportunity to meet so many unique people and introduce those people to you. And in finding guests and networking and so forth, I've come across some pretty unique people and some pretty unique stories that you've heard. And today is no different. Today we're talking with Fred, that guy, Quarter, creator of Pocketful of Pills, a comic and toy studio. Dig this, out of Manila, Philippines, the only Black-owned art studio in that country. And for over a decade, he's brought his Lovecraftian dark comedy saga to life via comics, shorts, and now augmented reality. Can't wait to talk about that. He now has a Kickstarter and he's currently working on. And he wants to talk about Afrofuturism and indie comics. And with that, let's welcome Fred Quarter to Into the Afroverse. How you doing today?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much, Will, for having me. I'm a fan of what you do. A lot of the people that I see as giants in sort of like the indie Black comic creative field have done this show. So this is a huge sort of win for me just being on the show. So I appreciate what you do.
No, I truly appreciate that. Thank you. And like I said, the great thing is in doing this show, we're meeting so many unique people and bringing these great talents to the masses, and hopefully folks, will be introduced and they'll be taken by what you want to talk about today and also interested in your product. So let's get right to it. Give us a little bit about your backstory and how do you end up in Manila?
Right. So I was telling you before the show. So I am from the Maryland area, same as you. And I grew up in PG County, and I always did short stories. I love telling short stories and sort of building worlds. And that was my passion. And I told my parents about this, and I want to be a short story writer. Once I realized that was actually some sort of a job you could do. My parents, very supportive, love them to death. They're still very supportive, but they're physicians. And when your little Black boy tells you he wants to tell stories instead of becoming a doctor, I'm a parent now. I understand. They were like, yeah, I don't know about that.
Right.
So I, so I sort of helped the transition and said, all right, I'll follow you guys' path. And I ended up getting my undergrad from psychology, my undergrad from Howard in psychology. I got my master's in mental health counseling from Bowie State. And I started working in the mental health field, which to me was the closest, amalgamation of the two, telling stories and being in the healthcare field. I was in psychology. I listened to stories and I told stories back to sort of as a healing practice. And I started working for youth. I started working for companies like Umbrella. I started working for companies like Pathways to Housing. I used to do chart review for DYRS. For those who don't know, that's Department of Youth and Rehabilitative Services. So it's kiddie jail in DC. Right. So I ended up getting a job. And one of my bosses said, look, I'll hire you, but you got to get a hobby. Like this is a really high burnout position. You got the job, but if you don't show me that you have some sort of hobby you've taken seriously, buy a snowboard, get a jet ski, sign up for a timeshare. I don't care what you do, but you need to come back to me in the next week or so and show me that you are taking your mental health seriously. Because we're 6 for 6 at this point. She explained to me. The last 6 people I hired have quit within the first 6 months. Wow. Because it takes me 3 months to train somebody. So I'm not about to train a seventh person. You have to show me that you're going to fight burnout or I don't want you doing this. So now here I am an interview with, my square job boss, and she's telling me that I need to do my circular passion, right?
Right.
My artsy passion. So I said I love to make comics. Like I have a dream of making comics. I'm a writer. So, okay, do that. Start a business. Start a comic business and do that on the side. Okay, sure, fine. So I go home just completely just sort of dumbfounded because here I am at the peak of one road, and I'm being told to go back to the other road, right?
Right.
If I'm to even do that road. So I'm like, oh shoot, fine. So I started LLC, and I started Pockets Full of Pills, and I pursue the passion that I had as a kid with my cousin. So Pockets Full of Pills, people always ask me where that name came from. I used to be part of a poetry group for Howard, and it was like the only poetry like club at Howard University. There's tons of poets and rappers on campus, but poetry was the seminal poetry group, and we used to do like all the open mics, and we used to perform at Howard Homecoming, like opening for a lot of the bigger acts. So I did a poem, and the last line of the poem that I'll never forget was 40 years ago, we had, hearts full of hope. Nowadays, all we got is pockets full of pills.
Wow.
And that line kind of sort of followed me around. It was something that not only was I proud of, I got a big rise out of the crowd, but people knew me for that line. So I sort of kept that line and said, that was a powerful moment. I'm gonna keep that and use that somewhere. And I had this story rattling around in my head. And I used that line as sort of like an encapsulation, pun intended, of sort of my take on art and sort of my artistic message. And I sort of formed my story around that line. So I started Pockets Full of Pills, and
Mhm.
I'm not a great artist. I can sketch a little bit, but my talents, I never really gave them a chance to flourish. But I've always cultivated the art of storytelling.
Right.
And my cousin is an amazing artist. And as kids, he and I would sit around. He's my older cousin. He's the one that got me into comics. He would bring home like Wizard magazine, and we'd go through all the different comic books. He draws characters and tell me,
Right.
"Hey, Fred, here's a new character I have. Here's the concept. These are his powers. Make a story that makes this work, and tie it
Mhm.
into the other characters that I've brought to you in the past." So we would sit here and just make up these comics for hours and hours and hours. And we turn them into D&D games. It was something we just did. We would sit in the room for hours and just talk. Okay.
Right.
So I came back to my cousin. I said, dude, yo, like I started a comic book company. Like, let's do this. And he was down for it. He was really excited. But within that first month or so, after he was supposed to, send me the first sketches to start this thing off, he quit. He said, look, man,
Wow.
he kind of took the money and run too. I gave him a little bit of upfront money, and you know how family does each other. And he
Right.
quit on me. And
Wow.
now I got my boss. I'm telling her, oh yeah, I'm doing this comic thing, and I'm going into work each day. True to form, she wasn't lying. I was starting to get burnt out. 60 patients a week. It was just, and so I've got this advice that I need to de-stress. Got everything I need, but my cousin quit on me. So I'm sitting there complaining to a friend of mine. We're just sitting around in my house playing PlayStation. And I'm just ranting about, oh man, what I should be doing is making my comics with my cousin. And he's like, dude, I'm tired of hearing this. Just hire my cousin. And
Wow.
I'm like, who's your cousin? I never met this cousin. He's like, he lives back in the Philippines. But my friend happened to be Filipino American.
Mhm.
And I was like, huh. So I hired his cousin, who ended up being an amazing artist. This is all via email. This is a long time ago. This is like when
Right.
social medias weren't that big. This is the early 2010s. So
Right.
I hire his cousin, then I hire his cousin's like college buddy, his cousin's college buddy's cousin. Before I know it, for less than I was paying my amateur cousin, I had 5 professional artists in the Philippines, just like, boss, tell us what to draw. Tell us what to draw.
Wow.
Just anything that pops in your mind, tell us what to draw. And I was like, this, and that. And some of it was with my story, some of it was just random stuff. you know. So I was cranking out artwork, and I just started putting it out on Facebook for free. I mean, I had no place for it
Right.
really. I was just
Right.
releasing art nonstop, just 15 images a week, just posting anything crazy popped in my mind. I sent an email to one of my artists that I thought like it fit his style or her style, and boom, it was just out on Facebook. I just cranking it out. And then a cousin of mine, he's an attorney, and he was like, dude, you're doing all this artwork, I would love to do um, uh, copyrights. So he was an attorney, and he's like, I'm a young attorney. No one wants me to touch any of their IP. You got all this stuff. I don't know why he contacted me on Facebook like, hey, cuz I don't know why you're making all this stuff, but I accepted your invite, and this is some cool stuff. Let me copyright it. And I was like,
Right.
oh, okay. So then he became part of the company, and it was he and I. So it was a new cousin and cousin team, and before I knew it, I was putting it on T-shirts. He was like, "Dude, you got to monetize it." I'm like, "No, I already have a job. This is just for fun. And if you want to copyright it, that's fine. It helps your portfolio. That's fine." And, he's like, "No, no, 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 no. No, I want to copyright it and have it used for something." So I was really following his lead. We started
Right.
putting it on T-shirts, and then I ended up getting the attention. Of course, you got to do a photo shoot. I did
Right.
a photo shoot with a friend of mine called Ed the Artist. He's like a famous body painter out of
Mm-hmm.
Maryland. And,
Mm-hmm.
so he like he does a lot of work for like Gucci Man and Waka Flocka and everybody, Yo Gotti. So he does all these like body painting videos. And he came and had a model come through, and we did this really creative photo shoot. And that got the attention of Waka Flocka Flame because he wore
Wow.
one of the t-shirts at a private party he was doing for Waka's birthday. And Waka calls me on the phone because apparently the story is he goes to Waka's event wearing the shirt that he had gotten the night before at our photo shoot. That he drove down to Atlanta and did
Right.
the party. And Waka goes, "I like that shirt. Give me one."
Wow.
so
Wow.
so my friend was like went to his trunk and gave all the shirts that he had. But Waka Flocka's a big guy,
Right.
and apparently none of them fit him. So then he was like, "Are you seriously going to come to my party and give everybody else shirts except me? And I'm the one that said I liked it." So my friend was like, yo, my bad. Like I'm not trying to upset you. So
Right.
Waka gets on the phone, and I hope he hears this one day. So he gets on the phone and he calls me, but from my friend's phone.
Right.
So I get the call, and he's like, hey, it's Waka. And he talks just like he raps, at least back then.
Right.
And so I thought it was my friend doing a bad impression of Waka Flocka. And so I have a whole conversation with Waka, laughing, thinking it's a really drawn out bit. Because, as a storyteller and a psychologist, I'm used to sort of just going along with a lot of
Right.
crazy like concepts, never breaking character. So I agree to like Waka says he wants to buy the company. I'm like, oh, the company's not for sale. It's not even really a company. Like everyone's taking it more seriously than me, right? My
That's
cousin's
incredible.
copywriting this stuff. My friend did a photo shoot. Waka wants to buy it. And I was like, yeah, I'll get you shirts. I can work with you. I get off the phone, and like a couple weeks later, my friend's like, dude, you didn't email him back. I'm like, email who back? He's like, Waka. Yeah. So he ended up coming to town, and I started working for Waka Flocka Flame.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Um, if you're just joining us, this is Into the Afroverse with your host, William Jones, where we're taking Black folks into the future. And we're joined today by Fred Quarter of Pockets Full of Pills, comics, and I guess
Mm-hmm.
multimedia company. It sounds like you're doing a lot over there. So,
Yeah.
how do you go from this chance encounter? I just find that incredible, the way life kind of sets you up for that moment. How do you go from that chance encounter to where you are today?
Right. So I was working for Waka, and then I started working for like Fat Trell and a lot of other like rappers. And I won't say who it was, but someone actually paid me. So a lot of what I was doing was just free. I was doing
Right.
concept art for them. I'd sit around, and these rappers would be like, I want this, I want that, I want this. I would go and just draw it because I literally had a hungry team of artists that I was paying for out of my own pocket. And I was like, oh, I can have them do stuff for you, And I was just
Mhm.
doing it for hire, basically for free.
Right.
Because I had this hungry workforce, and it was just fun for me. Like that's what it
Mhm.
was all about, de-stressing, right? I was like, oh, if I can help some of my favorite rappers and hang out and get into a few clubs with my friends were interested, it seemed cool, and I ended up getting some money from a rapper, and they basically told me very cavalier, just mess this up, I'll kill you. Really, sort of matter of fact. I was
Right.
kind of like, what?
Wow.
So of course I take the money and I go, maybe I should go to the Philippines to get all my artists together because my artists were all referrals of referrals.
Okay.
So one of some of my earliest hires had never even heard of some of my later hires. So it was
Okay.
sometimes hard to get them to collaborate if one was doing color or other one was doing another image or one was taking a little too long because I maybe gave them too many projects. I needed to sort of transfer some over, but I didn't want to lose the work we've done. So it was hard to get everyone to work. So sometimes that led to like delays, but who cared because it was all for free.
Right.
But now I have some money and a sort of like back of a napkin, death threat.
Right.
And so I was like, I'll go to the Philippines and make sure this doesn't take too long. So
Right.
I go. Yeah, I have been working with these guys for almost 2 years at this point. And I go and I meet them all face to face for the first time. This is before FaceTime was a big thing. So a lot of these
Right.
people I'd only seen in like videos, or I was buying calling cards from like the gas station to talk to. This is like the early stage of like social media,
Right.
and say the middle stage. So but still it wasn't like today. So I got them all together because there was no Zoom back then. I got them
Mhm.
together in a Starbucks, and that was sort of to me the beginning of Pockets Full of Pills officially, because
Wow.
all these guys got together and they say, oh, I actually do know you from so and so, and they sort of create cohesion to the group. And we ended up delivering the product, and then I came back a second time because I gotten addicted to the city. It was so amazing. There were so many black people, and a lot of that is something that you don't really hear a lot. That
Right.
Southeast Asia is part of the African diaspora. A lot of the people here that might not automatically identify themselves as black have African blood.
Right.
So there was like a kinship, sort of just being there and sort of seeing like, oh, like you guys, you're blacker than some of my cousins,
Right.
so just feeling at home and feeling comfortable so far away, and everyone was so into art, and this is like I said, this was my passion. That's why I told that my boss that I was doing it. So I ended up spending so much time going back and forth. I was falling behind on my actual work. And my artists, one of the times I came, I'd gone back maybe 4 or 5 times at this point. My artists all got together because I wasn't putting out any of the artwork like for pay. Like that one
Right.
time I got paid was really sort of a one-time thing. And then actually funny, I was on something called, I'm sounding really really nerdy. I was on a music video, Round of
Mhm.
Applause. So the Drake and Waka Flocka Flame music video. They just threw me in the video because I was an artistic director. So I was there just kind of like talking about like this looks good here, that looks good there.
Right.
And I was there, I was doing artistic direction for the director, Mr. Boomtown. So I was working for a lot of people, and my artists weren't getting any credit. And my artists, I think it's around the sixth time, about fourth, fifth time I've been there. I'm coming back every 3 or 4 months or so, just like doing projects and stuff. My artists were getting frustrated because these guys are professionals. I'm the amateur. And they're like,
Mhm.
yo, we're doing all this work. He's doing work for Waka. He's doing work adjacent to Drake. And I think what really kind of sealed the deal is I drew some artwork for Drake, and it became sort of the inspiration for Nothing Was the Same. I remember
Okay.
I knew I'd meet Drake. So what I did is I had an artist named Xe Salavera. And this dude is the OG that you've never heard of. He was the floor manager for X-Men, the animated
Mhm.
series during the Phoenix Saga. He was the guy walking up and down the aisles. They sent him to Indonesia because the last bit of the show was done in India, like,
Right.
not Indonesia, India. So he was
Right.
going up and down the aisles, helping our studio, get started. Okay. So, and then he started his career as a cleanup artist for the Smurfs and the Snorks. Dude was
Wow.
deep in the art world, and I got him
Right.
working for me for, like I said, for like a fifth of what my cousin was charging me. So he was really good at photorealistic. So I knew I was gonna meet Drake. So what I did was on the Round of Applause video, I drew these images of Drake like doing stuff. Like I drew like an image of him sitting, sort of like in like kind of like in the Nothing Was the Same style, with a little
Right.
white owl on his shoulder, sitting with the ghost of Aaliyah. Okay, then
Right.
I had another one where he was sitting facing what I believe was a younger version of himself.
Mhm.
Right. So then I sit him down. I'm like, hi Drake, I'm the artistic director, assistant artistic director. I don't know what the Mr. Boomtown was calling me. Like, but I had these free images for you, and I had them laminated. I sent it to him, and then I emailed it to him, and I was like, you should do photorealistic. You should stop doing photos for your covers. You should do photorealistic, because if you do photorealistic, not only is it art, but like you could do anything. I was like, you could like
Right.
be in a picture with your younger self, right? And I'm not saying Drake stole it, but I'm saying that that was the first time that I had said it to him, and that was it. I never worked with them; it was nothing official. But my artists knew what they drew, and then later, this Nothing Was the Same came out, and it was him facing his younger self, but not
Wow.
drawn by Exy. And
Right.
my artists were livid. They were like, "Yo, that was our concept. Where are we on the album?" And I explained to him, "Look, man, like we're not really official outfit. You know, I just do the stuff for free. I love creating, and if he used or was inspired by, that's all good." My artists were like, "Nah."
No,
So
right.
they end up buying me a table at a Comic-Con that I didn't even know was happening. I told them I was coming, and they're like, "All right, cool."
Right.
They got together and used the money I was paying them to buy me a table. And they
Wow.
said, "Sir, boss, we just want you to come. Just don't be mad. We got you a table. We printed out our own artwork that you designed, and you just sign it."
That's
So that was
incredible.
Pockets Full of Pills, ToyCon, 2015, 2016.
Okay.
And I made more money selling stickers and posters of a story that I was only hinting at in
Right.
a country that I was a guest in than I did doing my Square job.
Wow.
Uh, I think that was the beginning of the end of my time in the U.S. I
I can
basically,
imagine. Right.
yeah, I just sort of told mom, like Pookie from New Jack City, tell mama I smoked the TV.
Right.
No. It was that Pookie. That was no, that's Samuel Jackson. I see. I'm gonna go down memory lane
Yeah,
on
Sam
different tangents.
Jackson.
Yeah. Tell
Was it
mama
Jungle
I
Fever?
smoked the TV. I think it was Jungle Fever. Tell
Yeah.
mama I smoked the TV. It was like
Wow.
I'm hooked. I'm
Right.
hooked.
Right.
So I shortly thereafter I moved to the Philippines, and I've been living here building Pockets Full of Pills for over a decade,
Wow.
for a long time. Yeah. So like I think 2015 I might have already been gone. Yeah.
That
Yeah. It's been a long journey.
that's incredible. And if you're just joining us, and I hope you're not, I hope you heard that incredible story right there. This is Into the Afroverse with your host, William Jones. And Into the Afroverse, we're taking Black folks into the future. What I like about that story is, for one, I'm sure a lot of folks out there listening and are fascinated by the story, as am I. This idea of following a passion and then that passion becoming a business. And I
Yeah.
also like the way in which you came to realize how to run that business. I think for a lot of creatives, you know, we get so caught up in the creative side that we
Right.
forget the business side. So
Right.
fortunately for you, you were able to learn that lesson. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and based on that, what would be something just off the top of your head that you would recommend to anyone that's listening, that's interested in taking that passion, whatever that passion may be, and changing it into a business?
Well, my from my story, I think the one lesson that I've learned that I told someone the other day, if you're a creator and if you really think you are a creator, then create.
Right.
And people are so scared of people stealing their stuff. But me, I never felt that anyone stole anything, because I create. That's what I do. I create like I breathe. It's like someone saying they stole my breath. And it's like
Right.
I'm still breathing. There's no way to steal it if it's just, I use this analogy for someone that asked me, a young artist asked me this question about someone stole my art. What should I do? Can I put it out? Should I put it out? How do I make it a business? And I said, a deer can drink from a pool. A deer can't drink from a waterfall.
Wow.
If you flood the world with your art, and if your art's any good, the business model will come out of that. So many people think the business model comes first. It's the creation, and it's the precipitous, insane levels of creation. If you, because if it's ever going to be a business, that's what you got to do. You got to make art on top of art. I mean, look at Tupac. He's dead, and how many years did we think he was alive? Because he kept dropping albums. Like this dude was he was just breathing, sleeping, eating art nonstop. So when he finally stopped, rest his soul, he still gave us another decade of art.
Right.
And that's where the business comes in. Because so many people, you never know where your art is actually going to go or how it's going to monetize itself. But I kept pushing my art to the side and sort of valuing it the way that, my upbringing valued it, as something cool, but not something real. Gotcha. So I just kept pumping it out. And once I got to like this pinnacle of just mass producing my art and just releasing it into the world, then the world started paying me. I never asked to get paid. Like I said, like I started a comic book company because my artists paid for it. They used the money I gave them to start it. So like that's the story, I think, of all great artists. You just release the art, let the art push you forward. And then eventually you'll see the business plan in it, and then take control of it.
That's incredible. And how can folks see your work? Where can they see your work?
Yeah. So Pockets is Pockets with an S, Fulla, Fulla, and Pills, Pillz. You can check us out on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube.
Great. Now, with that fascinating story, and I wanted people to hear that story so they can have an idea of what got you to the space that you're in today. And I'm glad that you made reference to the African diaspora reaching out into the Philippines, because I'm sure a lot of people here, a Black man starting a company in the Philippines is unusual. So I'm glad you're able to talk about that. We didn't get an opportunity to really get into the content in terms of what it is you're putting out and what folks can expect when they visit your website or they're getting your materials and your product. What I would like to do is actually have you come back for another segment to talk more about that. So this is like our origin story for you comic book fans out there. Okay. So now we're going to move into the meat of the story. So would you like to come back and do another segment with us to talk more about, what you're doing at Pockets Full of Pills? Sure.
And I'll, so like we've been creating comics for the last, when I come back, I'll have an exact timeline. Right. So you're making comics for a long time now. And I like I said, I've been hinting at this story for years, and about a decade ago, I started releasing it. And it's a Lovecraftian dark comedy. I can give you the quick elevator pitch, super quick.
Well, let's do this, because we're really right up against it. Next segment, you can give us all.
I'm hungry.
Yeah,
we'll do.
Well, thank you for listening. Thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it, Fred. So that'll about do it for Into the Afroverse with your host, William Jones. And Into the Afroverse is where we're taking Black folks into the future. Please remember, you can find Into the Afroverse. If you want to hear some past episodes, you can listen to us on YouTube, on the Afrofuturism Network page. You can also find us online at afrofuturismnet.com. So many people are asking, what can we do to support your station? What can we do to support your show? Go to the website, check it out, and you'll be able to support us there. So that'll about do it. And like I said, we're going to have to come back next week. So I'm sure folks want to hear the rest of this story. So one more time, for Into the Afroverse with your host, William Jones. We're taking Black folks into the future. Have a good day. And a special shout out to Mr. Duke Productions for producing today's episode. Thanks and have a good day.